Okay, so we're recording now, and my name is John Helios. I'm the chief editor with Star Nations News, and I'm having a really interesting conversation today, which is May 8th, 2021, with well, more than an acquaintance. I would consider you now a friend. His name is Joseph Turner, and he lives in Taiwan. We actually met each other online while we were both living in Taiwan. I lived in Taiwan for like 6 years. And Joseph, how long have you lived in Taiwan now?
A little over 5.
A little over 5. So anyhow, you're still there. You're still in southern Taiwan in the wonderful city of what, Kaohsiung, near there. No way, actually, you're south of there.
Dongong.
Yeah,
Yeah, Dongong,
yeah, Donggang.
East Harbor.
So Donggang, yeah. So anyway, okay, so you've got okay. So I guess the nature of our conversation here is going to be kind of esoteric. You know me, I've got kind of like a spiritual background, in addition to all the practical stuff I've done here. But you've got quite an interesting story yourself and quite an interesting take on what the way the world works. And it's just lots of information to share between us. So if you can you start off with an intro about, like, who you are, where you came from, that kind of thing?
Yeah, I think that's a great place to start, John. I'll try to keep it pretty short here, and hopefully it won't like bore anybody. But I was born November 27th, 1966, in Oceanport, New Jersey. Really at Patterson Army Hospital. My father was in the military and Signal Corps. My mother was of Slovakian descent. She was really just a first generation born American. Her parents immigrated after World War One. So it's kind of an interesting background. And I want to touch on that. My mother's religion is actually Russian Orthodox. So I was baptized as a baby as a Russian Orthodox Christian. And
Mhm.
kind of where I want to bring that up, and we'll talk about it maybe in some other videos, is really the country of your birth has your political protection, and the country of your religion has your ecclesiastical protection. And this is the kingdom of heaven. All of us are in it. So there's a political and a spiritual side that really ties all of this together that's really not too common knowledge for the average American. And as an introduction, though, like I said, I was born in 1966. I went to high school at age 17. I joined the Army. I served from 1984 to 1988. A couple years in Germany, and I came back. I went to college, and after I got out of college, I was in the insurance business, went to the car business, and became a business entrepreneur, and started a few businesses. One of them that I've given to a first wife that's made her a multimillionaire. Another one I kept that I had a bad car wreck and almost died. And long story short, I still can't open that one back up because of the political reasons involving it. So
Mhm.
there's a lot of things involved here. I will tell you that I am a disabled veteran, only 30% service connected for service connected, but I'm 100% disabled. I've had a brain injury, 3 spine surgeries, a left knee surgery, and a broken right ankle.
Wow.
And I say that because I'm actually, as an individual, I filed a lawsuit against the Veterans Health Administration. And a long story short, it opened up a whole can of worms. But before I did that, I actually went to a priest and got a blessing to do that from the Russian Orthodox Church.
Mhm.
And little did I know at the time, these things that I told you, like the country of your birth has your ecclesiastical protection, and the country of your religion has your political protection. Well, the United States of America wound up kicking me out and sending me to Taiwan. So I had lunch with the NSA maybe 5 days a week, just every time I went to the restaurant for over a year before I moved here. If it's okay, I want to plug a website called josephturnerbooks.com. And I've
Sure. Yeah.
actually got, I've written 6 books. There's a few videos on there you can go and watch. And the books are rebranded as 8 books. They're on Amazon. They're on a few other places. I still can't legally, they don't allow me to market them. And I can provide you with an email later, John, that shows from Smashwords that I can't get them included, something stopping it from including them in mass publication for distribution stuff. And really, they're basically locking the story down. So you're the first person in all these years that's really being allowed the opportunity to kind of tell the story. Um, And I think that's pretty cool. So maybe it will resolve in an amicable resolution for me and hopefully help to bring the world together, because I want to say that all of us realize there's a lot of things that really aren't the way we thought they were. And,
Yeah,
it's really
yeah.
hard sometimes at the end of the day to put your handle to put your thoughts around all that and have any faith in a government or a concept or a system. And, I think that you know, as we go through time, we hopefully we take a spiritual path and we get to grow. And some people, they find it really hard to look inside, and we also, have find it really hard to be honest or ask questions or trust people. A lot of times, that's really just a result of or the life things that we've had to experience.
Hmm.
Um, so I think it's a pretty good introduction. Or would you like me to stop there or keep going on?
Oh, um, whatever you feel is, basically just, keep in mind who's listening. I mean, it's like a general public, and, they want to know what your general background is. If you think that covers it, that's okay.
Well,
Up to you.
I think that's a good starting point before, not to go into too much detail. That I will tell you that Taiwan, in my mind, is the actual Garden of Eden. And I will tell you later on in life, you're going to figure that out.
Uh-huh.
And then if you keep watching all of these videos, by the end of,
Uh-huh.
whatever I get to tell you and it gets to get published, you're going to understand things that really take you outside of the realm of what you've ever believed. But I
Hmm.
want to do that in a positive way through these episodes and these interviews, because the last thing I want to do is cause anybody to really just lose hope or lose faith, or just get
Hmm.
so angry that they give up the will and the desire to try to understand and amaze and embrace this amazing, magnificent world we really live in. So
Hmm.
I guess if I could take you on another thing, I'd like to say, whoops, hang on.
Okay.
My wife is. Can I let me decline this call from her real quick here?
Sure.
I don't know if
Yeah.
that's going to work. She's hopefully this doesn't interrupt it too bad. So what I'm trying to say is you know, oh, that was a distracting call from my amazing wife. Okay, let's take this to. You want to take this into kind of where I realized I started having lunch with the NSA. Okay,
Hmm.
when I filed this lawsuit against the Veterans Health Administration, I had been turned away for multiple times. I'm going to give you a little reason to why I had to go to the Veterans Health Administration. In January of 2002, I was driving in a car with an attorney in the seat next to me. It was the day before I had a $50,000 a month ad schedule that was to break with the company that I had set up called tradeappraisal.com and getthebestinterestrate.com.
Hmm.
And I was in the early stages as an entrepreneur in these businesses. And what I was able to do is pretty cutting edge, because I'd set up another business called Oklahoma Web Design that my first wife still owns and still runs.
Hmm.
Now, these other two businesses I set up, I was able to basically, I was a one-man company that was raising venture capital, excuse me.
Hmm.
And I was able to generate revenue by using the internet and basically databases, and really just taking advantage of my ability to sell. So I would go to news stations and I got them to give me the TV commercials they didn't have sold. They would make me a TV commercial, we would run it, and we'd split the revenue. And it was pretty successful. Like we'd run a TV commercial, and sometimes 700 people would log into a website, give us their information off that one 30-second commercial. And I would actually sell each lead for $15. So
Uh-huh.
that's pretty good. Now, on other things I did, like getthebestinterestrate.com, if you wanted to do a car loan, I made $15 off the credit app. If you did a home loan, I actually made a lot more. I was averaging 660 US dollars per home loan. So
Hmm.
that was really good. And the biggest door to enter the house is through the garage door. But the biggest thing everybody always buys is a house. The next biggest thing is a car. And so I tapped into two big money making industries that generate a lot of revenue. And I got the attention of some powerful people that caused that car accident, tried to kill me. So I was
And
in business
how
at the
how
time
how
with a
was
law
it?
firm.
How was it that you found out that somebody was trying to kill you, though?
I didn't find out till maybe about 5 years later, not actually a little longer than that, when I was sitting down with the NSA in the Red Cup Cafe in Oklahoma City. And one of these conversations that I was having, just like I'm having with you,
Uh-huh.
I would go there and I was writing these books and I would sit down and read and do stuff. And, after a year of them following me, they decided I talked to the Veterans Health Administration. I just told the girls watching me, why don't you just let these guys talk to me? So they did. They actually would sit down at the table and talk to me. And so this went on for probably another year. Actually, I got to talk to him, and I would go in and sit down, and three of them
Uh-huh.
would sit down by me. They'd stay for 2 or 3 hours. I would do whatever I'm doing and have a conversation, and then they would leave, and three more people would show up and spend 2 or 3 hours, and then I'd
Uh-huh.
do this. Sometimes I'd stay all day, and I'd go through three sets of people. So
Well,
long story short, I mean, I made some friends with these guys, and I'm not going to say any names because we really kept it off of a first name basis.
okay.
But what I want to say to you is that the conversations I had were really in depth. So I've got a lot of information from years worth of conversations that
Uh-huh.
I didn't even write about in the books. I
But
touched on a lot
okay,
of topics in the books.
yeah, but the thing is, there are other entrepreneurs out there, who, and some of them are successful and they've made lots of money. I mean, why was it that your operation, the things that you were doing got the attention of the NSA and other really powerful entities? How did it get, how did you
The
get?
lawsuit that had it, this is where I would tie it into the Orthodox Christian Church, because I went to my priest and I asked for a blessing to file this lawsuit against the Veterans Health Administration.
Mhm.
Little did I know that later on, my priest admits he's a member of the CIA, and basically he put me into another program called you can call it a deification program, or you can call it a gay conversion therapy program. They're both the same thing.
Uh-huh.
So, but he also, in the situation that I was in, I had touched on a lot of things with that lawsuit that, you think the VA healthcare scandal happened in Arizona, but it didn't. It happened in Oklahoma City. It's my lawsuit.
Mhm.
They don't want to tell you that because they didn't pay my lawsuit. They didn't allow me to go to court. They also don't want to tell you because I had basically uncovered, $1 trillion line of credit that was a fraud that was supposedly set up to fund the Veterans Health Administration. I had also, was fortunate enough that I had a Russian wife who I later will tell you I was in an arranged marriage with, who they gave her a job at Ernst and Young, and I had some really good health insurance. So,
Uh-huh.
how many people that need a spine surgery can actually just go out and get one when they turn people away all the time at the hospitals that don't have health coverage?
Right.
Well, I had some really good health coverage, so I got each one of these three surgeries that the Veterans Health Administration turned me away from.
Right, but
I
but
also, but
it also, but
I'm going into detail here. I also had 180 days of physical therapy a year, so I was able to recover. And the outside doctors, five of them, wrote letters, and basically at the end of the day, I got a letter from a doctor that states the proximate cause of my disability was the delays and denials in health care from the Veterans Health Administration,
Mhm.
which basically meets the letter of the law. It means they lose if they go to federal court. So they couldn't
Okay.
allow me to go to federal court because they couldn't beat me.
Okay, so
So and they couldn't,
was
and
that
I
was it
so
that risk? I mean, what was it that actually got? I mean, like I said before, I mean, there are plenty of other
well,
entrepreneurs out there,
there's 300.
but
I
why?
touched on a thing.
Why
Okay,
you? Why you?
I'm going into that here.
Okay.
That's a good question, and that's
Yeah.
why. I mean, nobody pushed the envelope as far as I did.
Okay.
I actually, at that time of my life, I had a few $100,000 in cash, a free clear house that was paid for, and I was making $6,000 a month tax free. My wife was working at Ernst and Young, bringing in $7,000 or $8,000 a month,
Hmm.
and we were just the two of us living. I mean, we had a great life. We had money. We could travel all over the world, and I had the money to just do this. I mean, I didn't have anything stopping me. I had a blessing from a priest, and I just went headstrong in these. You know, I couldn't get a lawyer. I'd file it myself. I got a lawyer. They shit canned the deal later on. And now one of them who shit canned is a judge in Nichols Hills in Oklahoma City. They gave him a job for shit canning. So
Hmm.
I just want to tell you that the bureaucracy is really corrupt that was running America, and I touched on basically the fraud behind the delays and denials of healthcare and the secret waiting lists and all that. I
Hmm.
brought that up and made a phone call to the VA regional counsel in Waco, Texas, and had this conversation with their lead attorney. So I mean, I took it to so then if the government doesn't fix it, that's intrinsic fraud on the government's part. So basically, the lawsuit was for intrinsic and extrinsic fraud. I basically proved that they were trying to kill everybody, and they were. They put us all on medication instead of doing the surgeries we needed, and the veterans were dying like crazy, becoming paralyzed. And later on, you find out over 300,000 veterans died on the waiting list. So, what is the real liability? I will tell you that the United States of America owes over $32 billion to thousands of US veterans that have been waiting for up to 25 and 30 years for their disability compensation that they've never approved and never paid them.
Hmm.
So there's a huge amount of money that's at stake that's involved with the benefits that is unpaid to our
Right.
veterans.
And if it was paid, then it would be coming out of the coffers of those folks who are trying to hoard all that money. Yeah. Okay.
Well,
So
that's
we're talking,
right now it's over 35 billion.
yeah, we're talking
That's
billions
right
and
now.
billions of dollars. Right. Right. Okay. So
You're not talking small change,
we're
but
talking big
we're
stakes
talking
here.
about, and you're talking about, okay, like I want to touch on this. What people are going to find out is that, the surveillance technology. I got a video on my website that showed the surveillance technology in my house, and they were turning it on and off. So, I actually was lucky enough. I went to church at St. Benedict's Russian Orthodox Church in Oklahoma City on Jones Boulevard. It's a little bitty wooden church that we, eventually bricked in. And but what's interesting about that church is, you see, they had to bring a priest in from the Antiochian church who used to be a Catholic priest to fill that slot because they didn't want a Russian priest there from Russia because of the military equipment that's stationed at Tinker Air Force Base. That's basically as one of the few places in the world they have a special plane that flies around the Navy operates that talks to all the nuclear submarines all the time. They always fly two of these planes on the poles of the world constantly, 24
Yeah.
hours a day.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's part of the nuclear deterrent. So they couldn't allow a Russian priest to be in that church. So they put a CIA operative in that church. But they also, it gets a little funnier here. Okay, I'm just
Uh,
telling you.
uh-huh.
This
Yeah.
country of America is a great big business. Everybody owns it from all over the world. And that little church, that Russian Orthodox Church, is got some interesting folks in there that are actually college classmates of Mr. Putin. And Mr. Putin actually has a relative who's a professor at the University of Oklahoma in Norman,
Mm.
Oklahoma.
Uh-huh.
So he's got some personal connections to this church that I went to. Really personal connections. Okay, so
Yeah.
I'm going to say that there's a lot more going on here. That's hopefully maybe we'll get to touch about it, and I can tell about it in another video. But it's too much to talk about in its introduction. But I
Uh-huh.
opened up a can of worms basically, and the Russians loved it because I went to this priest. They had surveillance technology in this church, so every time I went to confession, that that confession was, basically saved to a server that's in a closet in that church,
Hmm.
connected to the internet. They were listening to it the whole time. So, you know, later on, you're going to find out that, as I found out from the conversations with guys in Navy intelligence that are flying on those planes that I just told you about, that the surveillance system that's globally deployed is an open system. Every country in the world has access to it. Now, it's also bigger than countries in this world. You in Taiwan, I've had the privilege of getting my health back, which is really amazing. So I'm going to tell you that my understanding today of what a human is a lot different than what my understanding was living in America. Today, I know that we are all made up of trillions of life forms, and all of us are connected to artificial intelligence. And
Hmm.
basically, that when we get sick, it's because some of those life forms inside of us are not there, and they're dying. And so we're basically, you could say, we got a whole universe in our body. And the way they got
Right,
it set up,
right.
that
And
if
there
they,
are plenty of spiritualists and philosophers and even some doctors, professional doctors who do subscribe to that idea that actually our body is a collection of the smaller life forms. We have we're taught to think of our body made of as being made of cells, but each cell is actually its own individual life form that has agreed to be part of this whole that is our body. But I mean, there's so many of them that you're right. I mean, it's actually kind of like its own universe itself, as you just said. Yeah.
yeah, we make clean energy. Basically, Tesla's energy is coming from all of us. And so you've heard all these things about, get your chakra, get your energy level to a certain level. I mean, they're all right. I mean,
Yeah.
we do transmit on certain frequencies. I mean, we have vibrations that affect our bodies.
Mhm.
Basic this surveillance technology that's built in the lights and in the wall sockets, it bounces sound waves. I've got the privilege of looking at the video photos of what they look like, and they're not camera lenses. They're actually using sound waves to create beautiful pictures that look better than the conversation we're having on Zoom. So the
Mhm.
technology that we're actually using today with my iPhone and what all of us have is probably 75 or 80 years, maybe even 100 years behind what's really out there and what's really all around us all the time.
Yeah.
So there's a lot more going on that's outside of the realm of what we consider our world.
Oh
And
yeah.
you could say that, you could say it a lot of different ways. And maybe the beautiful part about this is we can show that there are basically benevolent life forms living here among us every day that
Hmm.
are actually looking out for us. So whenever things like the situation that I got into, and I opened up a can of worms, and I can tell you a little bit more. I mean, there's multiple attempts on my life in America while this was going on, and it just got really bad. Okay, so
Yeah.
I needed a place to come and a place to get away, and really I couldn't get better in America. And what you're finding out today is that there's a lot of different studies that are published from great authors like Glenn Greenwald. There's the guy at the other guy that's locked up in Britain right now that ran Wikipedia. I forgot his name off the top of my head, but they put a lot of information out there. If people really dig into the rabbit hole, they'll find out that there was Agent Orange barrels buried in lakes that are in the water supply that we were drawing the water from in America.
Oh yeah.
Basically, there's chemicals in all of our water. They can dig deep and they'll find lawsuits that there were chemicals placed inside soap, shampoos. Our food
Oh
supply was messed up all over the world, and our whole
yeah.
lives, basically, they were trying to knock off the population around the world.
Right.
So
Right.
you
So
can't blame that on. You really can't say that that's not a breakdown in the system of government, or if you can't say that, there's
well,
something really
it's
wrong.
not a breakdown. It's actually I've seen enough evidence to where I've come to the conclusion that it's a really well organized, huge endeavor that some interested people have taken upon themselves, to basically, like you said, to do a population reduction. That, at least, that was the original plan. There's a lot of evidence to the effect, if you know where to look and if you know the right people to talk to. There's a lot of evidence to the effect that this plan is failing, that it's actually being undone, and that the people who are behind it are they're being snatched up and incarcerated and that kind of thing. Uh, if you go to my website, you'll hear a lot of, you're going to hear some insider folks who are, let's say, for example, Michael Jaco, or I think you were talking about him earlier. And
Sure.
the Navy SEAL, the ex-Navy SEAL. In addition to, there was another gentleman who worked in Navy. He started off in Navy submarines, and now he's a information interpreter, and he gives plenty of interviews. His name is Gene Decode. He's known as Gene Decode, and I think you probably watched some of his videos on my website too. So, but anyway, but they are giving loads of information about more on the military side of what's going on planet Earth, in taking down these folks that whose original plan was to reduce the Earth's population. So anyway, we're
It
right
really,
at.
that's you hit it in a nutshell. I caught that on that end with my VA lawsuit. I actually
Mhm.
exposed it. I
Yeah,
brought it, well, I brought it under the attention of the Department of Defense, the Russian government.
yeah.
I got everybody involved in this, buddy.
So
So really, at the end of the day, the
uh-huh.
Russians were using this as great ammunition to basically counter Western human rights, and they
Yeah.
still are. They just
So
met the other day. I think
well,
yesterday,
well,
Russia and
hold
China
on, hold on a
battered
second.
Blinken at the United Nations.
Let's hold on for now, because we're right at like 20 minutes or so.
20
And
minutes. Okay.
so let's break off here for a little while, and we can continue with part two, or next part. Okay.
Okay.
All right.